The cryptocurrency market, where I show you step by step on how to grow your trading account. Hey guys, KUNAL here, Bulls on Wall Street, Bulls on Crypto Street, doing our weekly questions. Guys, every week I'm going to be answering questions on the state of the cryptocurrency market, where I see potential opportunities, and just different questions that you guys have on how you can get better and where the future of certain markets are going. And I got a really interesting question last week, and you guys feel free to email me, info@bullsoncryptostreet.com, if you ever want to have one of your questions answered. But an interesting one I got from Todd last week was, where do you see the metaverse in the next 10 years? And like, holy mouthful, that's a loaded question. The metaverse is going to be something where the applications of it, like, none of us really know what it's going to turn into. Like, where do you see something 10 years from now? Nobody knows. Like, what happens with these really unique technologies, and it'll be the same thing with NFTs. What we use NFTs for now will be totally different than what we use it 10 years from now. Like, I guarantee 10 years from now, nobody is going to be selling like JPEGs of monkeys with sailor hats for $5 million like they are with NFTs right now. There'll be a whole different use case for it where you utilize the technology for a whole batch of new solutions. So I think the metaverse is going to be really interesting because for those guys that are not familiar, this is going to be a virtual world. But like, how do you fit into that virtual world? I think the cool part about the metaverse is going to be that every single business and anything that you do, like where people congregate to, are going to be in the metaverse. So like, for example, like if you're a famous preacher, like who's the guy with the curly hair? Reverend Joel Osteen. That guy's got a nice set of hair right there, right? So he's got the biggest mega church and the nicest, pearliest teeth in all of Texas. So his church has got 40,000 people in it. Well, imagine like if he buys a plot in the metaverse and he goes in and builds a virtual church. And now people can put on their glasses. And you know, in the future, it's not going to be like these big goggles, but it'll just be some sunglasses. And now all of a sudden, you're hanging out in Joel Osteen's church in the metaverse. All of a sudden, your access to that becomes millions of people versus the tens of thousands of people that live locally. Beyond that, like, you can do a lot of cool stuff. Like, what if you were Gucci and I wanted to go put on a suit? Well, now, like, I don't have to go to a Gucci store. Like, I live here in Destin. All we got is an outlet mall, a Walmart, a Publix, a Piggly Wiggly's, and you can go to a beach store to get clothes. So what if I go into the metaverse and I go into a Gucci store and all of a sudden, like, they're able to map me out like exactly what my measurements are, and I can virtually just try on all these clothes. It's got my face, it's got my body, and now I'm going to a wedding and I'm saying like, whoo, this is pretty cool. Like, this is what I look like, and I can order these things right from the metaverse. Next day, you've got your custom clothes shipped to you. Pretty damn cool. You could do the same thing with concerts, like, so, you know, whoever it is, Selena Gomez. Is that the hot singer these days? I don't even know. Selena Gomez, Cher, whoever it is. Like, you could throw on concerts where it's like you're really there. So the metaverse is going to have that application to it. But beyond that, like, frankly, you can live probably a pretty cool double life in the metaverse. Like, imagine, like, here, I'm Indian, right? I'm like a science geek, a math geek, a trading geek. Like, in the metaverse, I mean, I could be Bradley Cooper. I could be running around hanging out with, you know, white chicks, doing like cool stuff like playing golf. I don't know. Whatever it is that other people do that I wouldn't do, you can do that in the metaverse. So I think the metaverse is going to have two applications for it. One is a business use case of you can take these big groups of people, whether it's a church, a concert, a store, and you can actually have a business front there. But beyond that, like, you could be living like a whole second 00 life, and that's actually pretty cool too, right? You know, you can go in and be anybody in the metaverse. It's going to be an avatar. You're going to have your own style, your own things. I mean, you will be able to go in to a bar, buy people drinks, like mingle with people with a headset on without ever leaving your home. And I know like a lot of you guys are thinking like, well, that's kind of a creepy existence. It's a lonely existence. Well, you're already doing that. If you spend even 10 minutes a day on Instagram, guess what? You're already living through somebody else's eyes. You're already looking at somebody else's vacation pics, somebody else's house pics, somebody else's body, and saying like, whoa, that's really cool. You're already doing it. But the metaverse is just going to be like that times a million, and it's going to be pretty cool because you can actually live through it. Next question from Big Greg. Big Greg's been asking, do you think cryptocurrency will be used as a way to circumvent control by governments or centralized social media? And guys, you're actually seeing that already. Like right now, we're going through a huge thing with Ukraine, the Russians and the Ukrainians, where the United States and all the Western countries are putting monster sanctions on Russia. So where will that money go? Like, will Russians just not be able to move money around? And I'm talking about the oligarchs in general. No. What will originally happen, and what's starting to happen already, is you're going to start seeing them shift around their cash in Bitcoin and different types of cryptocurrency. That's actually happening right now. You're seeing governments in South America take on Bitcoin right now as their national currency as a way to get away from the inflation that happens in so many South American countries. Like if you look at research, like anything that's ever happened in Argentina, they've devalued their dollar, peso so many times. Venezuela, Colombia, like you see this over and over. So right now you're already seeing countries look at Bitcoin as a way to prevent inflation. Beyond that, the censorship issue. Beyond cryptocurrency, where people are using the blockchain as a way to transfer money to each other like a PayPal, the blockchain actually has a lot more use cases to it. People are building on the blockchain, music companies, social media companies, ways to sell art. You're going to be able to use blockchain in terms of smart contracts to actually transact business. For example, right now on the Ethereum blockchain, if I wanted to buy a house from somebody, I could make a smart contract with a whole group of triggers so that we actually have a legal form and a deal that we can transact with each other. So these things are already happening, and we're like literally in the first inning of a long game. So I do think that the world, as it's becoming more and more globalized and connected, is also moving towards a way of becoming decentralized, which is what cryptocurrency is all about, is taking away power from centralized authorities where one person makes all the decisions to something decentralized where everybody has a hand in the decisions. Question from Big Timmy. So Tim is asking, why is the SEC taking so long to approve a spot Bitcoin ETF? You know, this is actually an interesting question. One of the catalysts for cryptocurrency multiple years ago, about 2 years ago, was the hope that a Bitcoin ETF would bring in institutional and retail money via the equity markets to essentially pump the price of Bitcoin. And what we found is it's just not necessarily needed. But going back to the actual question, the reason they probably haven't approved a spot ETF is that we still haven't had any clarification from the government, and we've hee-hawed in different ways on whether cryptocurrencies is really considered a security, whether it's going to be transacted in tax like property. There's been conflicting messaging on that aspect of it, but we just don't know right now if cryptocurrency is technically a security. And so having a spot ETF is still probably way off in the future, but we already have Bitcoin ETFs. You know, you have GBTC, you have BITO, and granted, these Bitcoin ETFs are based on futures contracts, but in reality, it's like the same shit. Like, it doesn't really matter. You know, the whole reason we wanted a spot ETF was just to get institutional money into the market, and that was the thesis, and that's already happened. You're seeing every big investor, hedge fund, everybody's been coming out saying, hey, we're getting into the cryptocurrency market. Even the big boys that are like BlackRock are getting into it. And so the spot ETF, we don't necessarily need it. It'll probably come in the future. But there's already a slew of Bitcoin ETFs out there. And frankly, it's just easier to trade the real thing anyways. So it's coming, but we don't really need it. We've got other options. Question from Claudio. How is the removal of quantitative easing from the Federal Reserve and rising interest rates going to impact the cryptocurrency market? Man, that's actually a really good question, and we're all trying to put our finger on it right now. It's a little bit of a guessing game, but we're starting to see pieces of evidence to show what the market is thinking about it. So let's first talk about quantitative easing. What is quantitative easing? Quantitative easing is a function by central banks where essentially they keep lowering interest rates to almost a negative or zero territory to flood money into the market. Beyond that, quantitative easing involves a printing of money to buy certain assets, whether it's mortgage-backed securities or actual equities via ETFs in the market to prop up asset prices. We can all safely say that a big chunk of the move since 2009 has been through a coordinated action from governments around the world via quantitative easing to prop up asset prices. Why would they do that? Number one, the governments need very low interest rates to finance their debts. If they have negative rates, they actually get paid to add debt, so it helps with their budgets. Beyond that, the world was in tatters via their economy in 2008, and we needed to flood the system with actual money to go places to create inflation from deflation. And so in essence, that did work, but they may have kept it going on for a period of time. So now what's happened 14 years later after the Great Recession and 2 years later after COVID, we have pumped so much money into the system that we are getting a rapid rise in inflation in all aspects of things. You can look at cars, housing, laundry detergent. Man, I was having lunch with my buddies at this bar called Cabanas, and they usually have like the most juicy chicken wings around. I ordered these chicken wings, and it's like these like little noodles come out. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Where are these chicken wings? And, you know, the manager there, who I've known for a long time, is like, look, man, good chicken wings these days cost like steaks. He's like, nobody can find them. So now you can't even find chicken wings. Like growing up, like chicken wings was like something like that was the food you ate on a budget. And now you're talking like $40, $50 a pound. The whole world is changing. The inflation is here, but a lot of that started in 2008 with quantitative easing. We have thrown literally tens of trillions of dollars into the system. So now what has to happen is to combat rising inflation via the flood of money and artificially low interest rates, you have to start to raise interest rates to combat that inflation. Now, I think that probably people have overreacted quite a bit. If the Federal Reserve raises interest rates 25 basis points, 50 basis points, and they do it 3-4 times this year, interest rates will still be at historic lows from where they were 10 years, 20 years ago. I mean, I was talking to my dad, and he was telling me, like, his first house he bought when he came to this country, he was paying 14% interest on the house, right? Like now we're paying 2% and we're all complaining that it may rise to 3%. Interest has always been a part of taking on debt. What's happened the last few years that's really hurt people is we've made debt so cheap that people just take it on, and they take it on with no means of ever paying it back. But all that increase in debt, what happens is people are buying things they can't afford, and everybody's doing it, so it makes the price of goods go crazy. And we are starting to see 14 years of free money finally come through the system. The chickens have come to roost. So how does that impact the price of cryptocurrency? Cryptocurrency is considered a risk asset. Risk assets are also stocks. When interest rates are cheap, stocks and other risk assets go up. When interest rates are high, people pay for bonds and other types of investment vehicles that are interest rate sensitive. And theoretically, that should put pressure on stocks and things like cryptocurrency. Now, we've already seen a big drop in cryptocurrency. So my thinking is that once the Fed actually starts to increase interest rates and people find out like, hey, 25 basis points is not really a huge thing, the cryptocurrency market is going to start to show some type of rebound or rounding. And we're already seeing it right now. If you look at Bitcoin, you look at Solcoin, Ethereum, wherever it is, sure, we're having a lot of volatility. But we have actually been in a range for about a month. We're not breaking down anymore. So we got hit with news from Ukraine. We got all this stuff going on. And the cryptocurrency market has not broke those previous lows. The low of Bitcoin was like 32, 33,000. I mean, we're at 42,000 right now with all this stuff going on. So already we are starting to see that digestion of rising rates and the geopolitical news. And I think that it's priced in. So what we're going to need to see is some type of rounding action. It could take a month or two. But at that point, if we start to come out of range, the cryptocurrency market should show a fairly big rebound. Do you think that celebrities should be able to promote NFTs? And man, that's like a really loaded question. I actually don't have a good answer for it, and whatever answer I have sucks. But like the whole point of cryptocurrencies is that it's decentralized, that there are no rules. And so when you have like, and there's rules, right? But there's the rules are written into the blockchain essentially. And that hasn't covered like what happens with NFTs. So if the point of cryptocurrency is to stay away from centralized voices, from some type of almighty power, right? Then it's the wild, wild west. You have to let everybody do what they want to do. But what we have learned about the whole let's let everybody do what they want to do is that in theory, the whole point of the free market is that if there's buyers and sellers, they'll meet together, right? And the market dictates what is supposed to happen, right? Like that's why they say like here in this country, like when people say like they should raise minimum wage, people say no, they shouldn't because the market will dictate what wages are. And there's like a certain aspect to that and there's not. But what often does happen in capitalism is that what we see in theory doesn't actually play out. Because when rich, powerful people don't have anybody telling them they can't fuck people over, they often do. And so that's where the quandary is. Cryptocurrency is about the freedom of doing what you want to do. But we know that when you can do that, powerful people will take advantage of it at all times. Now, we can always say like, hey, people should educate themselves and know what they buy. But frankly, like that's just not the population that we're dealing with in this country and this world. If a celebrity says like, hey, buy a picture of my moose knuckle and I'm going to charge you $2,000, like somebody's going to buy it. And that's just something that we have to deal with. So should celebrities be able to promote their NFTs? Yes, they should, because that's just business in general. But we do have to spend some time educating the customers that, hey, these things are probably going to be dog shit. If you buy a JPEG of Kim Kardashian's camel toe, there's a shot that it could go to 0. But there's also a shot that it could be something amazing, right? We don't really know. Like, you may be able to have some joy out of it. I don't know. Like, you could always go on X videos, but that's the quandary of letting celebrities do this kind of stuff. These guys are making so much money, by the way, guys, and they are selling the biggest pieces of shit to everybody. But that happens in any new industry. Like any new industry, it's the wild, wild west, and then the industry evolves. I think over the next few years, you're going to start to see these NFTs start to have a lot of utility. Like, what if it was Tom Cruise, or I don't even know, somebody, right, really famous has their own NFT, and he says, like, when you buy this NFT, you have access to meet me at my premieres every year, and you have the utility to do this every year. And so now all of a sudden you have this NFT, and maybe it's like a nice picture of his butt, and then you have also the ability to go and meet him, and you have maybe some special perks. And so now, like, that NFT has some type of value to it, and that's where you can go away from, hey, this is like something skeezy that's just meant to throw on your customers and your fans, to, hey, this is a way I can engage with my fans and also provide them value and utility, which in the long run is how businesses thrive. In the short run, you can make money anywhere in this country by selling shit with the right amount of marketing, but like, it never lasts. If you want to build something that's a long-standing business that actually has legs, then you have to have utility, you have to have value, you have to provide that service, and we'll start getting there. So in essence, yeah, let's let them do what they want, because we really have no choice, but we need to educate the customers on what really is good value, like what really is good utility, and then we have to let them know, like, hey, this third-rate actor from the WB show is probably not going to have a worthwhile NFT. Save your money. This show's been sponsored to you by Bulls on Crypto Street. Guys, I got a special for you guys. Go to bullsoncryptostreet.com/intro. I've got a free intro to trading course that is going to teach you from steps A to Z on how to get started in the cryptocurrency market. I've also got a free chat room where you can literally watch me trade from what I'm buying and what I'm selling, and it's for free. I put a link in this video for you guys. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.